Madam Speaker, each and every time that the Minister of Finance of any government comes to this assembly and presents his work, his plan, his vision for the coming year or years to the population, and now that we have it, that we have live broadcast, the people are willing to sit down and listen to everything that is being stated, more so when it comes to a budget speech. But it is my contention, Madam Speaker, that nothing will be able to change with the way that people view the presentation of a budget if we do not go to the very fundamentals that need to be changed. What I mean by that is the following. It is clear that whatever this government is going to propose, it has to obtain l'adhésion populaire. It has to obtain the approval of the people. It has to obtain the assent, not of us. We will just do what has to be done. But the people out there, they have certain expectations. It is not the opinion of government that counts. At the end of the day, it is not necessarily even the opinion of the opposition that counts, because what does matter is how do the people outside watching us, what do they believe this budget brings to their daily life? I have asked people, not only of my constituency, but nationally. I have asked people from various walks of life, what does this budget mean to you? I have asked people going to the sugarcane fields, what does this budget mean to you? It obviously means something different to someone working in the cyber city, someone working in a call center, someone who is a pilot, someone who is a medical doctor, someone who is a simple plumber, but so important because we need people like that. A simple electrician, but not simple because we need people like that. People working in industries, people working in the export sector. I have asked all of them, what does this budget mean to you? And there is one common denominator that I always hear, that they expect that any budget would bring a reduction in the cost of living. They expect that. Has this budget met with the expectations of the people, Madam Speaker? And what are those expectations? As I've said, the mother and the father of a family, they expect that this budget will reduce the cost of living, the expenses they have to incur with regards to family expenses. They expect that it will bring something positive for the children who are going to school, their children. They expect that somehow the burden that they have to carry every day, the sacrifice, will be looked into. Simple as that, that when they go to the shop or the hypermarket next door or a little afar, that when they look at what they have spent, there is a reduction in it. They do not expect more than that when you think about it. Has this budget really addressed what people are expecting outside? And the answer is, who come as ministers to read pre-prepared documents, to defend the budget of their ministries. When I look at the government defending the very, in essence, even the backbenchers, coming to say that everything that government is doing to be different, to try to have a critical analysis of that budget. Every single one of the members of government have come and said everything is perfect and there can be no wrong. There will be no wrong as long as it is the Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnnath who is Prime Minister, just like before him it was his father. There can be no wrong. There will be no wrong. He makes no mistakes. He is the perfect being. This in itself destroys the very essence of a debate. And whenever the members of the opposition decide that they will have to be critical in their approach, even though constructive, just because we do not agree with government and what they've proposed, we have the firemen de service, Honorable Senator Ambu, who will go for a press conference and go as far as to say that opposition members who have a different opinion are not patriots. So either you bow to the ways of thinking and the methodology and the vision of government, and if you do not bow to them, you are therefore not a patriot. Where therefore is the very concept of agree to disagree? Where is therefore the very nature of our democracy? In this August Assembly we're supposed to have a debate, not a pre-prepared script. This is what our standing orders say, Madam Speaker. In this August Assembly I'm supposed to hear people talk on the spur of the moment and come and tell us why they agree, what they may think could be done to be different. But what we see, Madam Speaker, is not that. It's just a conflict between opposition and government and nothing else. It is just politics that is, in essence, being given la priorité and not economics. It is politics and, in essence, the very advantage that each political party is going to try to vie for, position, political supremacy. This is what is become more important than vision, national interest. This has taken the backseat. I was here listening very carefully to Honorable Asnu. And Honorable Asnu, I am sad to note he is a member of my own constituency, elected member. I'm not sad because he's a member of that constituency, far from it. And he will note, Madam Speaker, that I've never stood up in this assembly and said anything, or criticized him, or even said anything against him with regards to his previous or this ministry. Only put questions, but never gone below the belt. But there is something which I view with sadness today, is that I would have expected him today to address issues pertaining to constituency number 3. True it is, he's an honorable minister who has to come and defend his portfolio. But he is also a member of parliament of constituency number 3, and constituency number 3 today have people who are listening and who are listening to him and who are expecting to hear from him what exactly does he propose as an elected member in government of that constituency. What does he propose to do to address the issue of a drug substitution therapy of methadone? How it has gone in such a disastrous direction. How it is being delivered next or in vicinity with a school. This was never, I'm sure, his own idea, but the fact is today he is the Honourable Minister of Health, member of Parliament of that constituency, Madam Speaker, and therefore he owes it, Madam Speaker, to the constituents whom he represents to give them a solution and not to allow such a situation to rot, because this is precisely what is happening. A rotting situation where methadone is being delivered next to school. People from the school there go into the garden next to where people, the users are receiving the methadone. And there is an intermingling which is not to the liking of the parents of that locality. He knows it better than I do. I expected him to address this. I expected him to address the very important issue, which is the rise of prostitution in our constituency. I expected him to be truthful in his approach by coming to admit that the government may have started a commission of inquiry on drugs. But the very fact is that this has not reduced the consumption of synthetic drugs in our constituency and in the many towns and villages out there, Madam Speaker. That is rampant today, the use of synthetic drugs. If they are to make us believe that because of a simple commission of inquiry that is making headlines once in a while, they have tackled a very important flaw that is killing our youth, they are wrong. How has this commission of inquiry reduced in any way the use of synthetic drugs? How has this commission of inquiry in any way reduced the number of people who are dying because of synthetic drugs? How has this commission of inquiry in any way addressed the sadness in the hearts of parents and family members and citizens of this country who have to see death leaving their homes because precisely government has been incapable of addressing the issue of drugs, simply to come and say, well, we have carried out and set up a commission of inquiry. The Honorable Justice, former Justice Lam Shang Lin is there tackling issues. This means we have a control on it. This we have seen in the press, people, heroin in a majority of cases, being stopped at the airport or in the port or in the gas cylinders. But what of synthetic drugs? This is the poison of the modern world. The world we're living in, not only Mauritius, in other countries as well. But when a government sits down, when the Minister of Health, who is responsible for this dossier of the delivery of methadone or Suboxone from his previous colleague, previous Minister of Health, who had the goal, let us only remind the people watching us today, Madam Speaker, that Honorable Gayan, what did he say? That this was not the cause of any death whatsoever. And it was not an emergency. It was not an urgent problem. It was not a problem in actual fact, but he, unfortunately, Honorable Asnu, is now sitting in that hot seat. People are still dropping out there. He's in government. But each time that I will come and say something like that, then you will have le pompier de service, Honorable Sinatambu, who will come and with his mop de service try to clean up the mess by saying, what? Oh, well, you were in government, what did you do? Well, let me just simplify matters for them. Maybe they haven't understood. In the beginning of a mandate, you can turn around and say, you were in government. In the beginning of a mandate, you can turn around and say, you messed up. That's why we won. You are already past the stage of mi-mandat. Now that each and every time that you turn around and say, what did you do? It shows that you are coward. A coward who cannot even face the fact that there are problems out there that the government cannot in any way solve because of sheer incompetence, negligence. But if it is not incompetence, if it's not negligence, what could it be? Ignorance? Ignorance of the obvious? Let's turn one eye to the obvious and let upon our heads the sword of Damocles hang with the slenderest of threads until it will drop and destroy the very strength of this nation. Each and every time they turn around and look in the rearview mirror, what did you do? What did you do? They are in government, Madam Speaker. I'm not. And if I were in government and all such things had happened, I would be ashamed. We have a government who is today in power. And let me say that for all to hear, and even le pompier de service.
Honorable Mohamed, please.
Yes?
Don't continue to refer to the Honorable Member as le pompier de service. I stated last time that Honorable Members are entitled to use severe language, but so long as it is within the bounds of order.
I will not address to the Honourable Member as pompier de service anyone who wants to act as pompier de service. Maybe they'll recognize themselves. Anyone who wants to act as that. Then what do they have to do? Why don't they go out there and explain issues of that nature? Now, anyone who wants to clean up the fire that's brewing. Just now I heard Honourable Attorney General speak. The Honorable Attorney General, he says that he will not divulge matters with regards to Betamax. He will not divulge the legal opinion that has been delivered. Why? Because it is privileged. But it is trite law, it is simple law. For anyone who is a first-year student in the field of law to understand that, and it can easily be consulted even by those who are not lawyers, that privilege does not belong to the lawyer, but privilege belongs to the client. And in this particular case, the client was government. And it is for government to decide whether it wants to be transparent and whether it wants to give the document or not. If he holds on to that privilege, it is his choice, not the choice of the lawyer or the legal team delivering the advice. So government, in spite of that fact, in spite of the fact that they can waive, they have the right to waive that privilege and give that legal opinion, they decide not to. Why? What are they trying to hide? And when I hear the Honorable Attorney General standing in this assembly and saying that at the time when this contract was signed, the Betamax and the STC contract, it was against the advice, he said. Against advice of the State Law Office. But it's amazing. Thank God for Hansard. And I here will refer to a document. This is a document where my good friend, Honorable Utim, number B73, STC Betamax Shipping Limited Petroleum Products. In that particular document, when he put a question to the Honorable Minister Ganga, and in that particular document, I read, he says here, Honorable Utim says, I quote, following my learned friend's question, can the Honorable Minister tell the House who was the legal advisor who gave that advice? Because answering to a PQ on the 24th of May 2011, Honorable Minister Sudan, in an answer to me, stated, in fact, that is what Honorable Sudan stated. In fact, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the advice of the SLO was that the agreement is legally in order. So then I said to myself, when I heard the Honorable Attorney General this morning saying that the advice was that they should not proceed with it because allegedly it was against some legislation, the public procurement legislation. But here I read that the Honorable Sudan himself, when he was minister, stood in this assembly here, if I'm not mistaken, where Honorable Adrien Duval is sitting today. This was the position that he sat in. And he stood up and said, and I said, let me go and see the 24th of May 2011, what exactly was said. And I saw that the question, in fact, was indeed a question, B391 in 2011, a question put on Betamax, petroleum products and transportation. And in this particular question, Honorable Utim wanted to know precisely, was the advice obtained prior to entering into that contract? And maybe members of the August Assembly on the other side have to know. Maybe they are not given all the information. Maybe backbenchers there, Madam Speaker, have to know, because they are not given all the information, because ministers choose to give some information and are economical with some other information. And it's important, therefore, to be transparent, because people outside listening to us, Madam Speaker, also have to know. Today, this government says that supposedly the State Law Office decided that they should not proceed with this contract with Betamax parce que supposément il y avait quelconque illégalité dans le processus. Mais comment se fait-il alors, Madame la Présidente, qu'en 2011, le vice-premier ministre, maintenant vice-premier ministre, alors ministre du Commerce, debout dans cette assemblée, a dit, Monsieur le vice-président, in regard to part B of the question, I have been informed by the STC that the reply is in the affirmative. Therefore, if you want the smoking gun, if you want the evidence, if you want the unshakable evidence that in fact a member of this government opposing to us was in fact standing in this assembly in the position of Minister of Commerce, in charge of that particular file of Betamax, saying that the State Law Office advice was indeed taken and it was in order, legally in order. Who therefore, Madam Speaker, Whose version are we to believe? The population watching us today, they have heard the Attorney General say one thing. They have now the evidence that the Honorable Sudan said something else that is diametrically opposed. Either one is true and the other is false. It cannot be that both of those facts are true. So who, therefore, will take the hat and put it on their head and will pass for the clown? Who? Because the population out there does not want to be made a fool of. The population out there do not like them being taken for a ride. The population out there does not like it that they are being taken for fools, because today the population have two versions, one of Honorable Sudan and one of the Honorable Attorney General, and many versions will have a third one, most probably from Honorable Senator Ambu later on. Which is which? It's very simple. Either A or B. Which is which? It cannot be that Honorable Sudan was lying. Or could it be? It cannot be that the Attorney General was lying this morning, that he was hiding the truth from us. Could it be? Or can't it be? Which is possible? We are therefore in the realm of a lottery. We are in the realm of a lottery. We're not in the realm of a parliamentary democracy where we expect people to speak the truth. We are just in the realm of a lottery. In Creole, they call it pic-poule. Who's the pool and who will be doing the piquet? En tout cas, it should not be the population, because the population at the end of the day, le dindon de la farce. Because here it is a farcical situation. And I believe, and I challenge both of them, Honorable Sudan and Honorable Attorney General, to meet up and come to the population and tell us by the close of business today who is the one speaking the truth and who isn't. When Honorable Sudan was in Parliament, I was minister with him. And I was sitting just behind him. And I remember he defended the case of Betamax with all his might, with all his conviction. He defended the case of Betamax and that file and said it was totally in order and it was in the interests of the people, and the SLO had said that it was in order, and that's that. Today, he is Vice Prime Minister on the front bench there. And today, because of the incompetence of government, we are today sitting down on a time bomb, because the fact is the bomb will blow up. And what is that bomb, Madam Speaker? To the state, the people out there, la population de l'île Maurice. Les jeunes, les enfants, même ceux qui ne travaillent pas, ont aujourd'hui une dette shoved on their heads. A noose tied around their necks, suffocating the population because of the sheer incompetence of that government that decided to bring an end to a contract against an advice of the Solicitor General. That is a fact. And that is why I say, why is it that this budget will never obtenir l'adhésion populaire? Never. Because today we have a government that is a gouvernement de contradiction. Un gouvernement de contradiction. Within the midst of that government, in the midst of that government, you have several versions of the truth. And there aren't two truths, there is only one truth. But the fact is, we have a government that does not believe in transparency. We have a government that says it is going to go for the Freedom of Information Act, but does nothing for the Freedom of Information Act. What has it done? Today we have an Attorney General qui se cache derrière qui cache la vérité, et aujourd'hui il se cache derrière une opération de la loi quand il dit que, soi-disant, que ce conseil des avocats a été donné et c'est des conseils confidentiels. Let me add to this what today we did not have time to bring up. Incompetence, sheer incompetence of government. Do we know how much government has paid to their lawyers in Singapore for this particular matter of arbitration? Do we know that, in fact, que la population aussi commence à savoir, et doit savoir, à cause de l'incompétence de ce gouvernement. And each and every time I see the interested feature of my good friend Honorable Jagru, I cannot blame him. He was not part of that government. So don't worry. He's not to blame because he was not part of that government. He was here as chief whip when this blunder was committed. And what is interesting is that the award goes as far as to say that the legal costs of Betamax has to be paid by the State Trading Corporation. Not only its own legal cost, but the legal cost of the State Trading Corporation. And to go further, each and every day that goes by, interest is going up. And I am informed that the legal costs go as far into several millions of US dollars. Therefore, almost 150 à 200 millions de roupies. Entre 150 et 200 millions de roupies que, encore une fois, l'incompétence de ce gouvernement a créé une situation révoltante. De par leur incompétence, la population de l'île Maurice, Madame la Présidente, se voit maintenant avec a bill, ardoise, salée, almost poisonous. But then, every government minister who is responsible for that, they will tell you, I am immune from any prosecution. They will show the Public Officers Protection Act up there. I mean, I cannot be taken to task because I was acting in my public official capacity. But we need a law. And this is when we will start building trust again with the population. There is the need for a law. Il y a besoin d'avoir une nouvelle loi qui met la responsabilité, qui met les ministres devant leurs responsabilités quand ils prennent des décisions. Une décision qui va à l'encontre d'un avis légal, qui va à l'encontre d'un rapport qui a été soumis par le Solicitor General. Quand ils décident de par eux-mêmes d'agir comme courtiers, on n'a jamais entendu de quelque chose comme ça. Des ministres qui se voient attribuer le rôle de courtier commercial pour négocier avec les préposés de Betamax. Where are we going? That you set up a ministerial committee in order to look at an independently produced report? Yes. An independent assessment? Yes. But not to go and negotiate in lieu and instead of people, officers of the State Trading Corporation. This is treason against the people. When did ministers of government have the right to negotiate contracts to be entered into by the State Trading Corporation? When? Who gave them that power? This has never been done in the past. Who analyzed independent reports with regards to Betamax, whether it was a good contract or not. Let's not forget that for the Betamax contract, BDO, the very firm that this government swears by, because they believe in the credibility of that firm, BDO was retained and BDO approved the very nature of this contract and said it was a good contract. So this government, they do things, and then what? They're going to come and try to give another angle to it and say that they were right in the name of what? In the name of good governance? Can this government give us lessons about good governance? Let's talk about good governance. Let's talk about good governance. I am sad, in fact, just to get back to Honorable Asnou. Honorable Asnou was talking about Saint-François Xavier Community Center, Community Service. I was looking here, and the only thing I saw is upgrading of community health centers. The only thing I saw here at page 207 of the estimates for 2017-18 is some item 419, upgrading of community health centers. For this year, for last year 9 million, for this year 10 million. But there is no mention here of how much is going to be spent on the construction of a new community health center. He never said upgrading just now in his speech. He said construction. But if there is going to be construction, la moindre des choses, c'est qu'on doit pouvoir consulter le document qui donne les détails des dépenses de ce dit ministère et vérifier. Where is it? It's not here. It's not even mentioned. Not even mentioned. And he goes as far as to talk about the eye hospital, let alone our constituency. It's not even more provision here. But eye hospital, the only thing that is provided for in terms of the eye hospital is for preliminary preparation and design, which was 5 million last year and 10 million this year. So it was preliminary preparation and design. We don't even know what the hospital is going to cost. We don't even know. There is no provision for that. There is no estimate for the cost. And he talks about the new eye hospital, where it's going to be built. The land itself has not been acquired as yet. And he's already announcing it en fanfare as though it is going to be such a great measure. The very fact, the truth is, I started a project in the constituency which was for the construction of a school, Abdul Rahman Abdul. Today, that project had already started when I was there, when I was minister, and today that project has halted. It has not even, can't even go ahead. God knows for why. Because il n'y a pas de follow-up. There aren't people who can ensure that projects are implemented. Secondly, he goes on talking about projects in the constituency. Idris Goumani Government School. I implemented that project. If he wishes, I can even show him all the documents and the meetings that I chaired with regards to all those designs. And he says, it's him. If he wants to take la paternité, fair enough. I have no issues. But then, what else has been done in that constituency ever since 2015? Nothing. We cannot give a medal to government simply because they say, we have tarred so many roads. That's your duty, for God's sake. What, we're going to give you a medal because you made drains? But obviously that's your duty. You're paid for it. But what else have you done? What sports facilities have you built? What schools have you constructed? What new ideas have you had? How many homes have been built for the poor in that constituency? Should I say the word zero? And today, when you look at that constituency, it is falling in disrepair. The police officers who have to be at important junctions are not present at important junctions. And there are traffic jams everywhere. This is une circonscription délaissée. And today when I read the press, l'Express of today, and when I look at the figures of Honorable Minister of Labour with regards to unemployment in Port-Louis, the highest place where there is unemployment on record is Port-Louis. The highest place on record is on Port-Louis. And I'm convinced about that, Madam Speaker. La raison pour laquelle il y a beaucoup plus de chômeurs enregistrés au ministère du Travail et de l'Emploi, habitants de Port-Louis, c'est la grande majorité. La raison pour laquelle c'est le cas, c'est précisément parce que le gouvernement ne s'occupe pas des habitants de Port-Louis. Is it because they were not elected as much as they wanted to be, as opposed to other areas? Are they being forgotten, les laissés pour compte, simplement par revanche politique? Pourquoi alors se fait-il qu'à Port-Louis, the majority of them are from Port-Louis? Why? So, and we talk about arbitration. We talk about, I have to talk about what Honorable Gayan also did. And I thank you, Madam Speaker, for having had the courage. And I don't very often do that towards you. But I have to say today, whenever you're doing something which I admire, I will say so. This has to be fair. Because Honorable Gayan, when he spoke on this budget, and he's still a member of this government, I am not Prime Minister. I never will be. But had I been Prime Minister, I would have fired him. I would have fired him without any explanation, because I do not accept that anyone who is member of this assembly can stand up and make remarks of a communal nature. It is not once that he's done it. Il récidive. À chaque fois qu'il essaye d'être intéressant, il récidive. Et comment se fait-il que quand il a parlé à l'Assemblée nationale, Madame la Présidente n'a pas laissé passer. Madame la Présidente stood up and intervened and said, Honorable Gayan, I will ask you to refrain from making communal remarks. Madam Speaker had the courage to call him to order. And if Madam Speaker has done that because it must have offended the rules of the Parliament, it must have offended, in other words, your own appreciation of having to be a place where we should not make no difference between communities. And this, I bow to you for having done that, Madam Speaker. But him, what did he say? He brings us back to 1968. What has 1968 and the PMSD got to do with the budget of 2017? Because it suits Mr. Honorable Gayan to talk about 1968. And what did he say? He talks about how 50 years of independence the country has moved and the PMSD has not moved. And he accuses the PMSD to be stuck in time. You are frozen in time. But he is the one who's frozen in time. He is still talking a despicable language of a racist. He talks about that. And what does he say? He goes on to say, Honorable Adrien was talking about Cupid. Who does not remember what happened? Malba nous paole, enveloppé nous paole. The words of Honorable Gayan. And he's still minister in this cabinet. And he is still a member of this government. And this government expects us to believe in the leadership of a prime minister who is weak. A weak prime minister who does not even have the courage to dismiss a minister who has made such a communal remark. This is not unparliamentary.
Don't attack the integrity. No, Honorable Shakeel Mohamed, I have said that everybody who intervenes, you intervene within the parameters of what should be said. You can have whatever language you want, but please do not attack the integrity of people. You can't attack the conduct of people. You can't attack the characters of people. I wouldn't accept that.
It takes a leader with resolve. It takes a leader with strength, a purpose. It takes a leader who is not scared of his alliance falling to bits and pieces and going into smithereens. It takes a leader who believes in a cause. It takes a leader who believes in national unity and not only the words that compose this phrase. It takes a leader who acts and not just does words and plays to the gallery. It takes a leader who is a real leader avec strength of resolve and conviction to be at the head of this country today. And such a leader would have not accepted that a minister with such remarks continues to form part of his cabinet. And you know what's worse? Madam Speaker, you called him to order, but has the Prime Minister called him to order? The least that could have been done by the whip of the government is to ask him to apologize. Did he withdraw those words? Did he withdraw the words? No. Therefore, for all intents and purposes, those sickening, racist words still are on Hansard, and they emanate from the ranks of government, and not a single member of government can come and tell me the contrary. Look at this. Look at this. And let me talk about, I was coming across that why should we believe a government of this nature? Let me talk about that. How many promises have been made with regards to jobs? How many promises have been made with regards to jobs to be created by government? Let's go back. Today, we have government coming forward with a budget and once again, fooling the population, making them believe that they are better than the rest, that they will create employment. And they go as far as to tell us that the people out there believe them. They themselves, among their own ranks, do not believe themselves. They will create employment. And you judge them on what they've done in the past. Let's look at what they've done in the past. What about the projections and promises that have been made by government? Let's not forget the 2015 and 2019 government program. What did they say then in the program? Some 15,000 jobs will be created annually. In 2015-2016 budget, the magician, the one who was supposed to bring us this new miracle, Honorable Lakshmi Naraidu, who is no longer Minister of Finance, he said He was talking about to steer the economy towards a path of high investment and high employment. And he went as to say, he said that there would be the creation of thousands of jobs at a rapid pace. And then in the speech of the Honorable Minister Mentor, the second economic miracle, Sir Aniro Jagnat avait dit en août 2015, Madame la Présidente, qu'il y aura la création de 100 000 emplois directs et indirects, créés en 5 ans. Ce qui veut dire un minimum de 20 000 par an. Ça, ce sont les paroles de ce grand monsieur qui est l'ancien Premier ministre, de ce grand monsieur qui est le ministre Mentor, et celui-là qui dit qu'il va créer 20 000 emplois par an, minimum. Et en 2015-2016, n'oublions pas que seulement 16 000 emplois ont été créés. Et il dit que 16 000 emplois vont être créés. Ce sont ses paroles. Il dit que presque il y aura more than 7,000 vacancies will be filled in 2015-2016. And he talks about the youth employment program for 2,500 jobs, placements under the youth employment program. En 2016-2017, the actual Minister of Finance, now Prime Minister, talks about this new era of development to create more jobs opportunities for all. And he goes on to talk about 21,400 youths, men and women, will be taken out of unemployment. But let us look at the figures. Statistics Mauritius. They can twist and turn as much as they wish. But the statistics are very straightforward. Other members of this National Assembly have said it before me, that only 300 jobs net were created en 2016. Que ce gouvernement-là a créé que 300 jobs net en 2016. Ce sont les chiffres de Statistics Mauritius. There are tables in the Statistics of Mauritius report that show exactly that. They cannot now come and say otherwise. Children outside that's going to school, students of university, fathers and mothers, citizens of this country have access to internet. They can all go to the internet and download the 2016 report for labor creation, and they will see what it was, only 300 net. And there's something que l'actuel ministre du Travail ne le dit pas. Et je comprends pourquoi l'actuel ministre du Travail ne dit pas cela dans son discours. Parce que, sûrement, il n'est pas supposé venir donner toute l'histoire. Parce que l'histoire aussi, c'est pas seulement que l'année dernière, il n'y a eu que la création de 300 emplois nets, et pas plus, pas les chiffres de 20 000 ou de 21 400. Mais, au fait, ce que l'actuel ministre du Travail ne vient pas dire, que les statistiques pour Workfare Programme 2016-2017 que j'ai dans ma main, ça, ce n'est pas sur son site Internet. Ça, ce n'est pas sur le site du ministère. Ce n'est pas même sur le site du Statistics Mauritius. Le nombre de workers qui ont été admis au Workfare Programme pour juillet 2016 à mai 2017, 5080. Ça veut dire que ceux qui sont éligibles pour le Workfare Programme ont été admis à ce programme. 5080 de juillet 2016 à mai 2017. Mais il y a beaucoup plus encore qui, en d'autres mots, ont perdu leur travail, sont maintenant chômeurs. Il y a une destruction d'emplois. C'est la raison pour laquelle ils ne sont pas. Pourquoi, auparavant, quand moi j'étais ministre du Travail, sur notre site, on avait le nombre d'usines qui avaient fermé, le nombre d'emplois qui avaient été perdus. Comment se fait-il maintenant qu'auparavant, il y avait des chiffres, transparence totale sur le site Internet du ministère, et comment se fait-il que cette année-ci, ces chiffres qui démontrent le nombre d'entreprises qui ont fermé ne sont plus là? Les chiffres qui démontrent le nombre d'emplois qui sont perdus, c'est plus là. Pourquoi? Mais moi, Dieu merci, j'ai les chiffres. Plus que 10 000 personnes en moins d'un an ont perdu leur emploi. Plus que 10 000 personnes en un an ont perdu leur emploi. Et aujourd'hui, le gouvernement vient nous dire qu'ils ont créé de l'emploi, 300 emplois nets. Et ce qu'ils viennent dire, ce qu'ils doivent aussi admettre, c'est que en 2015, quand on compare 2015 à 2016, le labor force en 2015, 584 600. Le nombre dans le labor force, 584 600. En 2016, 581 000, le labor force. Ça veut dire qu'il y a moins de jeunes, moins de personnes, moins de Mauriciens et Mauriciennes qui forment partie de ce labor force. Qu'il y a eu, en d'autres mots, a drastic drop in the labor force. Comment ils vont expliquer cela? Moi, j'aimerais que quelqu'un des rangs du gouvernement puisse venir expliquer précisément cela, qu'il y a eu moins de personnes dans le labor force entre 584 600 et 581 000. A total drop. Why? So where, therefore, Madam Speaker, are those big figures, those great figures that have been referred to by the former Prime Minister, the great figures of job creation referred to by the actual Minister of Finance? And let's not forget, and this never used to be done when I was Minister of Labour, because we have to be transparent. As I've said, we always give the real figures. Those are the number of people who lost their employment. Those are the number of enterprises that have closed. Those are the number of people who went on the workfare program. But this government clearly does not believe in the concept of transparency. This, clairement, j'ai l'impression que c'est le mot d'ordre, qu'on doit ne pas donner la vérité. Un gouvernement de contradiction. Ils viennent dire qu'ils ont créé de l'emploi, qu'ils croient soi-disant dans le freedom of information, but do not share those figures on the website. Why? And now, I am also very surprised to see here what has been said by Honorable, we're talking about various sectors of the economy where people have to see that things are progressing. Honorable Minister Mentor, I recall here in his speech, he talked about, and in his speech that he pronounced on the 22nd of August 2015, and even now, the actual Minister of Finance in his budget speech goes on to talk about the port being a driver of the economy. But why does he not tell us the truth about the figures pertaining to the port? Let's talk about the figures about the port. Productivity figures, Cargo Handling Corporation Limited. There are other figures that are not published, but I managed to get my hand on it. Why is it that those figures are hidden? Why is it that those figures are hidden from the population? Why is it, Madam Speaker, that the population are not allowed to look at the reality of things? That this government, when they are at the helm of the country, productivity goes down, productivity is destroyed. Let's look at it. January 2017, let's look at those figures. There is a total drop with regards to the ship's productivity. We're talking about the ship's productivity in 40s, January to December of 2016, but there is a sudden drop. Volume went down by more than 9% in productivity in the port in January 2017, February, March, April and May. A sudden drop of productivity in the port by more than 9%. Why is it the government does not talk about those figures? The Honourable Minister of Finance takes the money belonging to taxpayers to publish beautiful little books as addendums to his budget. Why the statistics is not there? Why is it that is not there, en couleur, en caractère gras, dessiné in terms of a graph, to show that we are even plummeting? Plummeting meaning we're going down, and we are not being productive in the port area. But still, they talk so much about them going to be able to use the port as a driver of productivity and economy and to create jobs. Let's not forget that Honorable Sir Anirudh Jagannath in 2015 for his vision 2030 or 2020, God knows what, because finally it's turned not to a vision but more to a nightmare. Nothing of what he said has been done. Nothing of what he said has been achieved. So this is a government non seulement de contradiction, but this is a government of non-achievers. They cannot achieve what they say and they are set out to do. Beautiful words, but nothing in actual fact. Honorable Kunju. Honorable Kunju, he's not here. Most probably he's slowly turning the corner somewhere. And let's not forget, I've got 1 hour to speak. I've got it. They spoke only for 15 minutes. Please don't stop. The Maritime Labour Convention, that was once under the responsibility. That was once under the responsibility, I'm still within time. That was still within the responsibility of, at some point, of the Honourable Minister of Labour. Now it's the Maritime Labour Convention, which I signed. We ratified as a country. For the advantage, to the advantage of people, for the benefit of people working in that particular field. We have 2 years de délai. Elle aurait dû entrer en vigueur à Maurice en 2015, the Maritime Labour Convention. Legislation pertaining to it should have been ready according to our engagements and promises with the International Labour Organization depuis 2015 for higher salary, better conditions of work for people working on vessels. What has this government done? Is it a government of achievers? Had this been a government of achievers, why is it therefore that Honourable Minister Kunju, can he come and give us an explanation as to where the Maritime Labour Convention is? Why hasn't it been implemented ever since May 2015? Why are we late? Or maybe we should then refresh his memory as to what exactly is the Maritime Labour Convention. Maybe he does not know. But then, is this government one that we can really think is credible? Madam Speaker, I believe that this government should not be believed. It cannot be believed. It has no credibility. We cannot trust them. They are not worthy of the trust of the people. Because, you know, respect is something that goes two ways. As long as the system of government that we have does not change, no government will be able to create a revolution in this country that will bring us the double-digit growth figures that we really want. As long as this government does not really face reality and accept that there are things that are fundamentally wrong with the system of government, we will never be able to achieve what we need to achieve. Let's look at Honourable Kunju again. They want us to believe them that they are not going to create jobs for the boys, that they will not give jobs to family members of theirs. Explain to me, how is it that one Sanjeev Kumar Babua lands up at the Maritime Training Academy? This very academy that they say will train Mauritians in order to give them jobs in that particular sector. How come someone called Mr. Babua, who has a case...
Don't mention names.
Okay, Mr. SKB.
Because the person is not there to defend himself.
Honourable Gayan, when he spoke, he mentioned 4 names of people who were never in this assembly, who could not even defend themselves. He mentioned 4 names.
You can defend initials, the result will be the same.
So let's not forget about this person. I've just mentioned his name. So SKB, who has a case before the court, being prosecuted for what? Under the Prevention of Corruption Act. But then again, maybe c'est dans la manière de faire de ce gouvernement, de nommer les gens, même s'ils sont une affaire intentée contre eux aux criminels par le directeur des poursuites publiques pour affaire de corruption, ce n'est pas vraiment quelque chose qui est important parce que c'est le gouvernement qui décide, c'est eux au pouvoir, c'est eux qui décident de ce qui est bon et de ce qui n'est pas bon. Let us not forget that this very Honourable Kunju, he himself has gone as far as to give an aquaculture permit to a company called Mascareñas Oysters Limited. Mascareñas Oysters Limited. No, that's us. No. Let's not confuse issues. It's a brand name that we will stick to. Don't take it from us. It's only those who know how to go for that. Now, let's not forget about Mascareñas Oysters. Now, who is the owner of Mascareñas Oysters? Who? Isn't it someone related to Honourable Kunju? How come it is a nephew of Honourable Kunju? I will not say his name. I will not give his name. What's the point? It is a nephew of Honourable Kunju. But then again, We are to believe them that they are credible, that they want the success of the country, that they want the rise of our economy, that they want to create employment. At the same time, who are they creating employment and opportunities for if it is not for members of their own family? What about Barbara? If we are to give it an English intonation. Gayan, oh, Honorable Gayan is even better. I'm trying to not mention names, but VS. VS. And now, what about Honorable Kolendavelu? What's that? KS? Yes. KS. Being the best person who is so qualified to be nominated as an ambassador. This is an insult to all the career diplomats at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As though she, who is close to Honorable Kolendavelu, is better because of what? Her closeness? And then they were on their moralizing horses standing up saying the Labour Party did this. The Honourable Prime Minister went as far as saying that they could use the private residence of the Prime Minister to hold a dinner for more than 100 people, and it was in order. This is not in my concept. He went as far as to say, because it is a private residence, he went even to say that the former Prime Minister, he even talked about orgies that were committed there in the past regime. But did he see the orgies? Does he have any evidence of orgies? Or just he comes to throw in attacks simply like that just to satisfy himself, members around him, and his small dwindling electorate? Does he have any evidence of orgies? How could he therefore be allowed, Madam Speaker, to throw accusations against people who are not even in this assembly by talking about orgy making? What is in fact an orgy? What is in fact an orgy? And what is in fact incestuous is the number of people belonging to this government who allow members of their own family to obtain jobs and positions and nominations within government and the parastatal bodies of this government. That is incestuous. That is an orgy. And I do not need evidence of that because I have it. You have people, Madam Speaker, people who are named as what? Oh, I have it here. I have it here. And that we have to remember. Chumka. Chumka. She starts out as a chairperson and she ends up as being the director. Chumma nahi bhai. Chumka. And then what? She ends up not only doing that, but being a courtier. Asking for, God knows, using her position as a courtier to obtain contracts in the field of electricity. Then you have the actual Deputy Prime Minister. Let him come and tell this assembly to explain how come Alvaro Sobrino, I mean, him, we can mention his name, he is so well known to everyone now. He is known. Okay? How come he has bought property in Royal Park Balaclava, and that Royal Park Balaclava tell him to come and tell this house that he did not accompany him there on that land to show the land. And tell him to come and tell us that Monsieur Megro for Royal Park was not his client. Come and tell him that there is no established, in fact, a relationship between him, Megro, and Alvarino Sobrino. Tell him, come and tell us. Tell us that it's not true. Tell us, tell the people out there that this is not true, that this triumvirate d'enfer to facilitate the process of someone who has a very bad reputation outside of Angola, but the government of Mauritius does not know. Tell us about all... I skipped Barbara just now. I just mentioned the name. But Barbara managed to obtain, what's it, honorable, a member of this assembly? She managed to get, once again, colistier de l'honorable Kunju, qui obtient un contrat gratuit, zéro, rien à payer. Is it because she is, in fact, this person who obtained it? Barbara Boyd.
Oh, no,
That's not.
I'm not allowed.
No, don't do that.
Even from a sitting position, I'm not allowed you to do this.
And then, something else, Madam Speaker. I remember I went to Qatar. I went to Qatar in order to sign one agreement with Qatar, which was what? For circular migration. The Honourable Minister talks about circular migration. The Honorable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, talks about circular migration in his annexes. Let us know one thing. How many people have gone outside of Mauritius for circular migration ever since 2015? In fact, the figures are very, very, very sad to admit, not very proud to write home about. And you know why that is the case? Because my good friend, the Honourable Minister of Labour, is not been given the respect that he deserves. He has not been given the tools that he requires. He is being demeaned by his ministry not tackling the file totally for himself for circular migration. Had he had control total on the budget, he would have shown figures and mentioned it in his speech. Today, I see that Honorable Sudan has gone as far as to what? Issue a communiqué saying that the Republic of Mauritius is stopping all diplomatic ties with Qatar, a country where we have hundreds of Mauritians working whom I have had the honor of meeting when I was there. And they write home, called home, worried that the diplomatic ties no longer exist because the Honorable Vice Prime Minister has written there and said it does not exist in order to satisfy another friendly state of ours, of Mauritius, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Why has he not been called to task? And the government expects us, madam, a government that knows that with Brexit, when I look at this budget, what is in this budget to tell me that geopolitically, strategically, we have given time to reflect. Reflect upon what? What to do with regards to bilateral trade agreements between Mauritius and the European Union and the United Kingdom following Brexit. Rien. Rien n'est planifié. But what this government, Madam Speaker, is good at is of promises, promises, and promises. They talk, talk, and talk, but they can't even walk the talk. They talk, but they can't even walk the talk. The people outside, Madam Speaker, are a people whom I admire. The people of Mauritius, I admire their strength. I admire the resilience of those people. Many times we have come across difficult moments in our history where economically we have had to rely on the people of Mauritius to get us out of the doldrums, to get us out of the difficulty. We have therefore to call upon the resolve, the ethics of the people of Mauritius. We have to trust. The trust has to be rebuilt. But this government is not trusted. This government is not trusted because, as I've said, people who are close to the family members of government are given jobs. Jobs for the boys, jobs for the girls, jobs for the cousins, jobs for the daughters, jobs for the sons, jobs for those who are close to MSM. And they had the toupet to talk about la méritocratie. I am for a revolution of the system. I am for a new set of laws whereby you bring morals and legality in the approach of ministers in cabinet. They cannot go on acting in cabinet and taking decisions as though they are the demigods of the day and that nothing will happen to them and the taxpayers out there will have to come and pay for the mess that they have created. We need a law to make government ministers responsible and they have to be prosecuted, pay and disqualified because of their incompetence. We need a law to stop government ministers from nominating any single member of the family in any position of government or parastatal bodies. And I go as far as to say, I have been a minister. Sir Anirudh Jagnnath had named my father, Yusuf Mohamed, as lawyer when I was not in government. But I go as far as to say even that should never happen in the future. Even me. I should not see any member of my family who are named in any position in government, be it as a lawyer or otherwise, because a line has to be drawn and we have to be responsible and we have to take the first step, a step towards change, and this is what the population wants. But this government, they do not understand what I mean. Because they will be fast to say, well, what did you do? What did you do? But they will not do what has to be done. Because they haven't got the courage to do what has to be done. Neither have they got the resolve to do what has to be done. I believe in a new system where the position of vice president is just simply annulled, deleted from our books. Because I believe we have to start being responsible as a nation. I believe in a system where members of government will not have the right to choose, handpick whom they will put in positions of power and decision. But it should be a bipartisan parliamentary committee that sits down and decides who will be in state law, state enterprises, state-run enterprises, in positions of boards and CEOs, decision-making positions. This should not be a government that talks of meritocracy, but meritocracy only for their people. It is only when you change drastically, Madam Speaker, that you will be able then to ensure that this bond of trust that no longer exists is rebuilt. The bond of trust with the people. Because the people are more important than any of us. I'm not important. I am not important at all. It is the people that's important. And the people do not appreciate what's going on. The people condemn government. I've heard the métro léger, and I will finish on that, the métro léger. Honorable Buddha goes on to give us figures around 17 billion rupees. Tell him to come and tell us whether or not les deux soumissionnaires qui ont déjà donné leur prix, ils ont coté beaucoup plus que 20 milliards. Tell him, come and tell us it's not true. Tell him to come and tell us that it's not true. And when you look at the provisions in the budget, it is for 13 kilometers only. And let us not forget the wise words of Sir Anirudh Jagannath, because now, I must say, he was wise before the elections, and he lost it afterwards. The wise words of Sir Anirudh Jagannath before the elections, being interviewed by Nawaz Nubaks, and I can still see this video, where he says, projet métro out. Li n'a pas viable ça. Those are not my words, those are his words. Li n'a pas pour viable, li pour out ça. Ce qui nous besoin, c'est faire flyovers partout. So it was not viable before the elections. And he gave the solemn guarantee to Nawaz Nubaks on a video that still can be shown to everyone, that I will post on my Facebook page a few minutes later on, that this is not viable. It will be out. How come, therefore, he is going on with the project? More than 20 billion rupees for 13 kilometers, when in fact, what did Sir Anirudh Jagannath say in this recording? It will cost 50 milliards pour coûter ça, he said, in his own style. I cannot imitate. Honorable Ratna can do that, I can't. He said it will cost 50 billion rupees, that's why it has to be out. Those are the words of the Minister Mentor. But if the Minister Mentor said it will not be viable, que le projet ne sera pas viable, qu'il faut mettre à la porte le projet, que ça va coûter 50 milliards, aujourd'hui, les chiffres prouvent qu'on avait raison. Les chiffres prouvent that the people have been taken for a train ride. How come? Parce qu'aujourd'hui, 13 kilomètres va coûter quoi? 20 et quelques milliards, plus de 20 milliards de roupies, et 26 kilomètres qui ont fait le trajet initial va coûter presque 40 milliards. And today, this government comes and tells us that they are better than us. Madam Speaker, this is a government of contradiction. This is a government that I do not trust and the people out there do not trust. But then again, la même rengaine va continuer. On va avoir ceux qui se prennent pour des pompiers de service qui vont venir dire qu'on a tort et ils ont raison. Mais quand eux, ils viennent dire qu'on a tort, ce qu'ils disent au fait, c'est que la population, dans la grande majorité, eux, ils ont tort. Mais s'ils ont le courage, aussitôt que M. Badin démissionne, give the elections and put a candidate, and we'll show you exactly who's right and who's wrong, because it will be a referendum election, and you will be beaten down. Mettez Christelle, mettez sans pas de candidat, and you will know exactly what will happen to you. Thank you very much.
Honorable Senator,